Now, I know that Game Week 21 isn't even over yet, but there's already plenty to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to go through players to buy and avoid ahead of Game Week 22. All right, so we'll kick the video off then by looking at a model. And here we've got some clean sheet odds for the next 5 game weeks according to Elevenify. I'll leave a link to Elevenify in the description so you can check this out for yourself. I don't really think there are any massive surprises when you look at this list. What I usually like to pull out is not necessarily the teams at the top, because it's always going to be Arsenal and Liverpool as the main two based on performance so far this season. It's kind of the teams around them. And one drop I've really noticed this week is Man City. They have dropped like a stone in terms of clean sheet odds coming up. Not only, well, they've got some tough fixtures coming up, and I think the fact that they've been poor defensively so far this season is kind of racking up. Although at the time that I'm recording this, they're not playing too badly defensively against Brentford. They've got to half-time and it's 0-0, so we'll see what happens as the game goes on as to how I sound there. But they've dropped a little bit. Outside of Arsenal and Liverpool, you got Newcastle, who have, I believe, 4 of their next 5 games at home. And one thing I would always say about Newcastle, I said this on FPL Therapy when I was on with Raptor as well, is I feel like Newcastle can genuinely keep a clean sheet against absolutely anyone at St James's Park. And they got quite a good number of good fixtures at home. Man United up there, Palace, Villa, Brighton and Everton are kind of the teams just outside the top 2. But I wanted to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the Arsenal defence. Going into Game Week 21, I had a lot of people considering getting rid of their Arsenal defenders, and I'm very conscious I'm recording this video before Arsenal have even played in Game Week 21. But I still feel, even regardless of how they get on, that you sell Arsenal defenders at your peril, because apart from maybe that Man City at home game and maybe Villa in there as well, I still back them defensively, and I still think there are clean sheets to come in their games coming up. And you look at the clean sheet odds they've got over the next 5 game weeks according to Elevenify, and they are really, really strong. That Man City game, they probably do concede there, but it wouldn't be the most outrageous thing in the world to see them keep a clean sheet against Villa, Wolves, Leicester, West Ham and Nottingham Forest. And I'd also say that Villa one, it looks tough, but I find Aston Villa can be a bit hit or miss. There have been weeks where they just haven't showed up. And that could well happen in Game Week 22. My whole overall point, I guess I'm trying to say, is, historically they've got a good record. Arteta, he's getting stick for like sort of defensive first football, not being able to create chances, etc. And yes, going forwards, I probably wouldn't pick their attackers. But from a defensive point of view, they're still really strong. And yeah, I just back them basically. I still think they're one of the stronger defences in the league. Gabriel is just an absolute beast when it comes from set pieces. So, even if he's not keeping clean sheets, I think he just offers so much goal threat. I mean, pretty much every game I watch Arsenal play, Gabriel has a genuine chance of scoring a goal from a set piece, or he actually does score a goal from a set piece. So yeah, I really back the Arsenal defence. I can imagine if you're on someone like David Raya and you're seeing his record recently and preempting, he probably, in my mind, concedes against Tottenham as well. You might be thinking about selling him, but I don't know. I back the Arsenal defence and the history they've got, and they've got some good fixtures coming up where I do think clean sheets could happen. Next up is a debate that quite a lot of players, I imagine, were having going into Game Week 21, and I don't see any reason why that would have changed going into Game Week 22, particularly considering that Munoz is still under 6% ownership at the time of recording this video. I still feel like people will be looking to bring these players in. And I guess if you really have lost faith, for example, in that Arsenal defence, then a potentially sensible move you could make with that mindset is to buy one of these guys because they're substantially cheaper. You got Lewis Hall and Munoz, and I'd say, of the cheap sub 5 million defenders in the game, these two are the absolute standouts. And, I know this is the case going into Game Week 21 as well, so it's not like a massive surprise talking about these two players. But I think they've put up such good numbers, both from an attacking perspective, particularly for Munoz in that regard, and Hall from a defensive perspective and decent attacking returns. They put up those great numbers that I think are still good options. And regardless of how they perform in Game Week 21, I think I'd still consider them to be good options, unless, of course, they get injured. Bournemouth, Southampton and Fulham, the next 3 fixtures for Hall. West Ham, Brentford, Man United for Munoz. I'd definitely say the Munoz fixtures are tougher. And when you look at them, compare them across the season in terms of attacking returns, they're actually equal. Both have 4 attacking returns so far this season. And Hall's got 7 clean sheets compared to Munoz's 4. So you look at that and it's night and day. Hall is by far and away the better option. But if you've actually watched Munoz in recent game weeks, he has been just absolutely electric from an attacking perspective and been really unlucky. Owners can consider themselves so far really unlucky that he's not had any attacking returns in recent game weeks. I think, to be honest, that probably changes in game week 21 even. But 23, 22, 23 and 24, there's definite chance of attacking returns there. I would probably back Lewis Hall because I think the difference between his likelihood of keeping clean sheets is bigger than the difference that Munoz has in terms of attacking returns. Does that make sense? So I think Hall is a lot better defensively than Munoz is compared to Hall from an attacking perspective. I'll just repeat myself for effect there. So hopefully that makes sense. But both of these guys are definitely players still to target. I've got another model here just looking into projected goals for upcoming game weeks. And again, it's similar to what we just looked at with clean sheet odds. I don't think there are any massive surprises in terms of the teams that are right at the top. Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man City, Chelsea, Spurs, all of the teams you'd predict to be amongst the top scorers. But it's kind of the best of the rest that I'm interested in. Villa, obviously, with Arsenal in game week 22, got low projected goals in that one. But after that, they look really, really strong. Man United, they're amongst, the best of the rest, I would say. Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, all up there. Fulham as well. So for an idea of projected goals for the best of the rest, that's where I probably would go to. I'm also looking at the bottom there in Wolves. If anyone's still got Cunha, I guess we'll see how he gets on against Newcastle this week. But yeah, not really looking like Wolves are predicted to do all that well. But I would say under their new manager, they definitely do look to have improved a little bit. So yeah, they might be 20th. And to be honest, I'd probably rank them ahead of Southampton because Southampton just look absolutely terrible. Now, I wanted to talk about Nicholas Jackson, and I wanted to use him to make an overriding point that I try to bang on about as much as possible in FPL. And I'm not doing this to sound, to try and prove a point or anything. I'm just saying this because I genuinely want to help you get better at FPL. Well, and I'm learning as I go myself, right? I never claimed to be an FPL expert, but this is something that I truly believe in this game. Nicholas Jackson tonight, I know he only got an assist and he got a yellow card, so his returns were not massive. But I think he's proven tonight one sort of, in my mind, underrated skill in FPL, which is patience, especially with players that have a proven track record of scoring goals, which he has done this season, undeniably. Sometimes you've got to ride the bad game weeks. And people that held on to Nicholas Jackson, I think, will be happy with what they got in Game Week 21. And going forwards now, he is a player that I genuinely keep hold of. Wolves, Man City, West Ham, Brighton, Villa as his next 5 fixtures. You might think, Man City, Villa in the next 5 tough. Definitely not. Man City have just conceded 2 to Brentford. They're obviously not great defensively. Neither are Villa either. So those 2 tougher games mixed in there. They're against defences I wouldn't class as great anyway. He's just brilliant, Jackson. And yeah, I'm not making the point about patience to sound clever or big myself up. I'm saying it because I genuinely think it's a skill in FPL that's underrated. And Jackson tonight, and there's other players that I'll talk about in a second, particularly some of the cheap midfielders that also prove it. But patience in FPL can really pay off at times. Yes, he's not played yet in Game Week 21, but I did really want to talk about Morgan Rogers. I feel like he is, provided he gets through Game Week 21 unscathed, he is just a season keep for me. He is by far and away the best of these cheap midfielders. And I don't know, I just get the feeling he's not quite getting enough love in the FPL game at the moment. I just want to give him some. I know he's got Arsenal away coming up in 22, but I don't know, I've just recommended the Arsenal defence here and I back them. But it wouldn't be the most outrageous thing in the world for Morgan Rogers to do something against Arsenal. And seeing how he dominated, for example, the Man City midfield, I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't do that against Arsenal. Then after that, I think 3 good fixtures, West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich. He's just, in my mind, the best of these cheap midfielders. And he wouldn't be going anywhere from my team. And I think, He's only 22.3% owned in the game. So that suggests nearly 3/4 of the game do not have Morgan Rogers in their team at the moment, which to me just seems absolutely crazy. In my mind, I know, well, Salah's probably the best player in the game, like pound for pound, I would say. But Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer as well, I imagine. But Morgan Rogers runs them really close, considering the level of returns he's got, the minutes he's playing, the chances that are getting created for him, the chances he's creating, and his price point. He's just amazing. I think he's the best at that sub 6 million price category. Now, Morgan Rogers might be the best, but I think Ahmad runs him close for second place. Again, yet to play in Game Week 21. He's got Southampton, and I'd actually be a little bit worried about the position that he's going to take up in that game, purely because Dalot is, I think he's suspended from that FA Cup game, isn't it? So he might be the one who ends up having to play right wing back, and he's not 100% immune from rotation, is Ahmad. So I would be a little bit worried that he could get rotated in some games. But the form he's been in recently, and obviously he's just the key star man for, well, pretty much the key star attacking player for Man United behind Bruno. Yeah, I really like him as an option. And I think what you've got with Ahmad is really, really strong fixtures. Brighton, Fulham, Palace, Tottenham, Everton, I'm pretty sure is one of, if not the best fixture runs that any team has for the next 5 fixtures. Yeah, I really like him as an option. And I think if you've already got Rodgers, I repeat again, I think Rodgers is the best at this price point. Probably second best in my mind is Ahmad. And yeah, I just want to talk through these cheap midfielders because I think the game at the moment, it's so important to, these players at this price point are so important in the game at the moment for your team structure. And obviously, I've just been rambling about Rodgers and Ahmad, but there are so many other good cheap midfielders under 6 million. And I wanted to just use this segment to, well, prove a point there are so many good options. And then just say my general thoughts and principles about picking players at this price point. So outside of Rodgers and Ahmad, who you can see there, I genuinely also believe that Ismaila Sarr, Semenyo, maybe not Iwobi. I'm not too keen on Iwobi, but he's just scored, to be fair. He's just scored against West Ham. Jacob Murphy, Hudson-Odoi. I imagine if Jacob Murphy doesn't play in 21, he'll probably be back for 22. Hudson-Odoi, Enzo Fernandez, who with Lavia back in the Chelsea setup is playing far more advanced. Clivert, who is the, I believe, Bournemouth penalty taker and he's just scored in Game Week 21. And Alanga. All of these guys are genuinely pickable in the game. And to be completely honest with you, whilst I think Rodgers is number 1 and probably Ahmad is number 2, there isn't a whole lot to separate these players. Ismaila Sarr's at the top, and that's probably the one I'd actually disagree with the most. I'm not massively trusting of Ismaila Sarr, but you might have a different opinion to me, and that's totally okay. But the general point I wanted to say around players at this price point is I think the way to play it is pick 1 or 2 and just stick with them. Because there are going to be weeks where the player you have doesn't score and another, I'd call them rivals because they are rivals at this price point, I guess, will score and you'll feel jealous that you don't have them, want to bring them into your team. You buy them, sell a good player, and then the good player scores, and the new player you buy blanks. You could just get yourself into an absolute hole with chopping and changing between players at these price points. So my view is pick 1 or 2, depending on the team structure, and just stick with them. Because you can see there, this is over the next 5 game weeks. In terms of predicted points, there is 6 points between the whole range, which over the course of 5 game weeks is not a whole lot. So yeah, my general principle, pick 1 or 2 and just stick with them. And genuinely, all of these, what have I got here? 9 players, 10 players are pickable. Genuinely pickable. Now, I've not spoken about the assistant manager too much on my channel yet, purely because, to be honest, I've been really busy with work that I've had just enough time to make content about my own team and go live ahead of deadlines. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my views on the assistant manager and the kind of managers that I'm looking to target. Looking at the managers that are 1.5 million, I'm not all that impressed by the price of Arteta, Maresca, Guardiola and Howe, just because of how much better, well, I say how much better, they're currently 1-0 down to Nottingham Forest at the moment, but how much better Liverpool have been than the rest of the teams. They really have created, I think, separation between themselves and the rest. So seeing all those other managers around the same price as Slot, I just don't see why you'd select any of them apart from Arne Slot. You go a little bit lower in price, you've got Iraola, Hurtzler, Silva. Nuno could be all right at 1.1 to be fair, and Postecoglou. But I just think, particularly Iraola and Hurtzler and Silva, they're just a little bit too expensive for the teams that they manage. Emery at 0.8 could be good value. Thomas Frank could be good value. I do like Glasner. I feel like Crystal Palace are kind of on the ascendancy with their form. And I don't know, it's the same with Brentford as well, I guess. They do have a win against a big team in their locker. Amorim, obviously, with Man United's current league position and their form that they're in at the moment, at 0.8 million, he's on the cheaper end of all the managers. When Man United are definitely, well, we'll see how they get on against Southampton. But they've just, well, beaten Arsenal on penalties, got a result against Liverpool at Anfield. They're definitely on the ascendancy and I think have the ability to beat teams that are above them. So if you can catch Amorim on a run of fixtures where he's got teams that are higher than him in the league, or those 5 places higher to get the bonus points, that's obviously a good time. The Wolves manager as well could be decent considering their league position and the fact that he seems to have got them playing much better than they were under Gary O'Neill. I'm not sure any of the promoted managers realistically you could go for. And then you've got Potter in, well, David Moyes is just coming as the Everton manager, not updated in the graphics. The 2 new managers at 0.5 million, I think, provide really good value. For me, if I was to pick, I think there are 4 that I would genuinely pick from. Slot, just because he's probably the most guaranteed to get results. Amorim, because he's sort of in the middle range, and with the form that Man United are slowly picking up, he's got the ability, and just with their league position, you know, it's a bit easier for him, I guess, to get those extra points for beating teams above them or getting results from teams above them. And then Potter and Moyes, I haven't seen Moyes play for West Ham. Well, sorry, I haven't seen Moyes manage Everton yet and exactly how they play under him. But Potter seems to have picked up something out of West Ham. They've looked so much better already in their game week 21 that I've seen so far. So both of those could be options as well. So for me, I'm probably limiting the choice of managers I actually select. I'll maybe stick Glasner and Frank in there as well. But for me, my standout for a Slot, Amorim, Potter, and David Moyes. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like rating. Subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel, which should be just here, actually, on your screen. That'll show up at some point. I don't know why I put it down below. Let me know in the comments if there are anything you disagree with in this video. And yeah, that should be everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video. And subscribe here.